Democrats celebrate a new party leader. We'll have details ahead. Plus, in contrast to his boss, the new national security advisor says the term radical Islamic terrorism, well, that term is not useful. Not useful, he says. And we speak to a Syrian refugee mother who will be watching the Oscars to see if the documentary about her family wins. Live from CNN World Headquarters in Atlanta, welcome to our viewers here in the United States and around the world. I'm George Howell. CNN Newsroom starts right now. It is 5 a.m. on the U.S. East Coast. Good to have you with us. Fair to say, this will be a very busy week ahead for the U.S. President Donald Trump. Mr. Trump speaks before a joint session of Congress come Tuesday night. This will mark his first address as president. Also this week, the White House is set to roll out a revised executive order banning travelers from seven mostly Muslim nations. But there is one event coming up later in April that the president is declining now. Mr. Trump tweeted this on Saturday without explanation. I will not be attending the White House Correspondents Association dinner this year. Please wish everyone well and have a great evening. After losing big to the president in November, the Democrats now are regrouping under new leadership. On Saturday, Democratic Party officials meeting in Atlanta, Georgia, elected former U.S. Labor Secretary Tom Perez as chairman of the Democratic National Committee. CNN's Ryan Nobles has more on this.
Thank you so much.
Democrats have a new chairman, but it didn't come easy. Former Labor Secretary Tom Perez won the position after falling one vote short on the first ballot. Perez was able to gather enough support to win on the second ballot. But Perez understood that while he did win, there was still a major part of the party, the progressive wing of the party, that wasn't necessarily happy with his victory. That's why he brought up the man who came in second, Keith Ellison, the congressman from Minnesota, and named him his deputy chair. Take a look at that moment.
I would like to begin by making a motion. It's a motion that I have discussed with a good friend, and his name is Keith Ellison. And the motion I would like to make to the body is a motion suspending the rules, if I may, to appoint Keith Ellison deputy chair of the Democratic National Committee. Tell me the phrase I'm supposed to utter. That was fine? Okay. I'm not, did I hear a second? All four? Opposed? Hey, wait a minute. The silence is deafening. The motion passes.
Tom Perez and Keith Ellison, for that matter, now have a big job in front of them, bringing together all these different factions of the Democratic Party with the goal of being a true check on President Donald Trump. Not only do Democrats not own the White House, but they have minorities in both the House and Senate in Washington. They own far fewer legislative seats across the country and far fewer governorships. Perez promised to get the House back in order and become the Democratic Party that their supporters hope they can become. Ryan Nobles, CNN, Atlanta.
Ryan Nobles, thank you. The former U.S. President Barack Obama congratulated the new Democratic leadership with this statement. It reads, quote, I'm proud of all the candidates who ran and who make this great party what it is. What unites our party is a belief in opportunity. The idea that however you started, whatever you look like, or whomever you love, America is the place where you can make it if you try. And from former Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton tweeting this, congrats to DNC Chair Tom Perez and Deputy Keith Ellison, excited for strong, unified party standing for best of our country into the future. The U.S. president offered this backhanded compliment to Perez after he won. It reads as follows: congratulations to Thomas Perez, who has just been named chairman of the DNC. I could not be happier for him or for the Republican Party. Perez then fired back on Twitter. Call me Tom and don't get too happy. Keith Ellison and I and Democrats united across the country will be your worst nightmare, he said. Democrats may be off to a fresh new start, but to be successful, they will need to reach out to a lot of voters who rejected their message earlier and responded instead to President Trump's promise for jobs. That promise, though, is already being put to the test in the heart of the country, in coal country. That is where coal plants are being shut down. In Ohio, some residents now are asking President Trump to not only save their jobs, but to save their entire town before it's too late. CNN's Martin Savage has this report.
In Ohio, it's hard to find an area more remote or more red than Manchester, where 2 of every 3 votes were for Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. 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 Trump.
The tiny town sits along the bucolic banks of the Ohio River.
It's something about the water here. You get it in your blood and you don't want to leave.
Folks can tell you when the town started, 1791, and when they believe it will die.
They say 2018.
June of 2018 is the last I've personally heard on.
That's when 2 large coal-fired power plants on either side of the town are projected to close. The news broke just after the election.
It was definitely a shock to myself and my friends and co-workers, family, people in the local community. I mean, I think some people are still in shock.
As it stands now, the union says about 700 jobs will be lost in a town of just 2,000 people. The coal supplier says it'll cut an additional 1,500 jobs. Tax revenues and property values will plummet. So what about all those rallies?
I love Ohio. You know, I worked in Ohio.
All those promises of jobs and of re-energizing coal.
Jobs, jobs, jobs.
So if he is the energy coal president, why are coal plants still shutting down?
I don't think it's 100% up to Trump. I mean, I think he's got a lot of say-so in it. But to me, it's poor business decisions.
The mayor agrees it's not Trump's fault. He blames plant owners and management.
The men in overalls built this country. The men in suits have destroyed it.
But he is a man in a suit.
But he has touched the working people. He stood up for the working people.
Did you vote for Trump hoping he would save your job?
That's not the only reason I voted for him, but I did vote for Trump because I like the way his views are on stuff, and I like the way he don't try to be all political correct on everything.
He was very positive towards coal where others weren't.
You don't feel like, despite all his talk of coal, bring the jobs back, that somehow your coal-related job?
No, I personally don't feel let down, but he steps in on this part as well.
Put some pressure on, let's rework this coal industry around.
These Trump voters are trying to convince now President Trump to keep his promises about jobs and coal.
If he can't, if he doesn't.
Well, I don't know. I guess I'll see what the future holds. I don't necessarily hold it against him, but I guess more of a disappointment.
If they were just empty promises, then in Manchester and other towns with coal-fired power plants, futures once so bright will soon face much darker days. Martin Savage, CNN, Manchester, Ohio.
Martin Savage, thank you. And to talk more about this, let's bring in Scott Lucas, live in Birmingham, England. Scott is a professor of international politics at the University of Birmingham. Good to have you with us, Scott. Let's talk just a bit more about what we just heard in Martin Savage's report there. This is the heart of America, talking about coal country. For many people who voted for the President of the United States, they were hoping that he would save their jobs and bring more jobs, bring in new jobs. We are just a little more than a month into this new administration, so certainly, we're just in the beginning here, but given this snapshot right now, the hopes, the aspirations of so many Americans, where do you put the president as far as delivering his promises?
Well, the president's been hoping he can just deliver with slogans. He really hasn't projected coherent economic policies as much as you heard in the clip, jobs, 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 blame our economic problems on foreigners like the Mexicans and the Chinese, and somehow I'll bring you an economic program that will save you. We haven't seen that economic program so far, and it's going to be difficult because let's take coal. The issue regarding coal is that we've had changing patterns of energy mix, including nuclear power, including new forms of power like solar power, and that coal has been on the back foot. We saw it in Britain here a generation ago with the turn away from coal. Now, Trump is not going to be able to remedy that. But beyond this, a lot of America's issues regarding changing economic patterns and employment has to do with technology, not to do with foreigners ripping us off. And none of Trump's policies or proposed policies deal with that issue of changing technology. So I think we're going to see a long time of uncertainty, and I do think we'll see disappointment amongst those who voted for Trump within the next year.
Scott, let's also talk about disappointment. Maybe you should call it surprise by many of the journalists who cover the White House. The president tweeting that he will not attend the White House Correspondents Association dinner. This, as you know, an annual dinner where the president of the United States is the guest of honor, typically, the butt of jokes in many cases. So many presidents before Mr. Trump have taken part in this annual tradition, but President Trump saying that he will not have a part in it this year. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't think you should be surprised. I mean, the president has declared war on y'all. Let's be clear that President Trump is saying, and his advisors like Steve Bannon is, if you give us good press, we'll treat you as friends, as they did with the gaggle this week where they shut out others. But if you don't give us good press, and if you run reporting that is challenging us, then we will hit back at you, and we will keep hitting back at you. Now, Trump's tweet is just the latest, and it's just a symbolic blow, albeit one that's interesting, in that he's the first president since 1981 to not appear at this dinner. What is going to be important on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week is how they keep rolling out fake news and who they attack with it. Will it be CNN? Will it be the New York Times? Will it be NBC? Because, let's be clear here, they are trying to intimidate the media to back off stories regarding the alleged Trump administration's links with the Russians. They fear what might come out, and the way to try to overcome what might come out is to say, it's all fake, it's all this liberal media who are attacking us.
It's not the job of journalists to be friendly with politicians. You can certainly have friendships, but our job, rather, is just to dig for the facts, to ask questions. We'll continue doing that. There's no way the press will be intimidated in that fashion. Let's also talk about this coming Tuesday, a very important day for the President of the United States. He'll be addressing Congress, his first address as President. What do we expect to hear? Obviously, we know that there will be a new travel ban. There are some very important items on the President's agenda.
Well, I don't think you're going to hear much in terms of specific substance out of this effective State of the Union address, because the administration is not in a position to repeal Obamacare. It still doesn't have its tax plan in place. I do think you may, and I stress may, get a new version of the Muslim ban, which was struck down by the courts. And I think you'll get some old one-liners. We'll build the wall with Mexico. We'll make America safe. We'll withdraw from trade partnerships. My question is whether you get the Trump that we have grown to see, love or hate, who is almost off the wall in what he says. Look at how big my inauguration was, how big my electoral result was. Or do we get a more settled Trump with a speech written for him, which is much more conciliatory, recognizing that at some point he's going to need Congress to get his legislation through?
It'll be a very important address. We'll be watching, the world will be watching as the President speaks on Tuesday. Scott Lucas, live in Birmingham, thank you so much for your insight and perspective today. I want to tell you about a situation now in New Orleans, Louisiana. Festivities turned tragic there. This at a Mardi Gras parade. A pickup truck slammed into a crowd of people. 5 people seriously hurt. The youngest victim, we understand, just 3 years old. The suspect taken into custody. Police say that he appeared to be highly intoxicated. A witness told CNN affiliate WDSU the truck barreled right into a group of people.
When I heard the impact over here, I seen the truck hitting the people on the ground, coming through the crowd. They ricocheted off of one car to another when they hooked the hard left. And that's when he had all the people on the ground over here. People were everybody was trying to help one another, trying to get them to make sure everybody was all right.
A witness to the truck crash in New Orleans speaking there. The city police chief says that there is no indication at this point that this crash was a terrorist act. Still ahead here on Newsroom, Malaysia says that you are safe at that capital's main airport. We'll take you live to Kuala Lumpur for more on the investigation into the poisoning death of Kim Jong-nam. Plus, another Trump administration official appears to break with the president. Details ahead as Newsroom continues.